about, like the little green and shit, all that. So my shit not crisp. My shit's not as crisp. I don't have like a high crisp camera, and my lightning, like it's not good. I'm basically using my LED lights to like get like a better lighting on myself. So, uh, I hope you guys still enjoy this vid. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and shit, yeah. Let's get into it. But the first video we have is 4chan's darkest thread, something sinister. Oh boy, something sinister. Now I have not uploaded in a month. I have not uploaded in a month because I got discouraged because my views was going really low and I was getting low views. But you know what? Let's stop caring about the views. Let's start making good content. And if you mess with me, you do. If you don't, hey, still though, I hope you have a best day. Let's lock in.
In 2014, a disturbing image was posted to a message board on 4chan. The image appeared to show a woman. She wasn't wearing any clothing. She was just lying in bed, motionless.
Oh shit.
For those unfortunate enough to see the photo prior to its removal, it was clear that this nameless woman had recently died.
Oh shit.
And this photo was just one of many. As more photos of the woman lying in her post-mortem state were being uploaded to the site, 4chaners began taking a closer look at the user posting them. This was a completely anonymous individual, someone none of the 4chan users had any interactions with on any other message boards. So, why all of a sudden had this user decided to come out of the woodwork and post such disturbing pictures? Many initially thought that these photographs of the nude woman were part of an elaborate joke.
You know what?
The woman was maybe a paid actress or a friend of the OP who decided to pose for a scary photograph.
Okay.
It was a little strange that she agreed to do it nude, but I guess weirder things have happened on the internet.
Right.
Regardless, users also found some of the OP's comments posted alongside the photos made it seem like they were really hamming it up for the audience.
Okay.
Turns out it's way harder to strangle someone than it looks in the movies. And she fought so damn hard.
The fuck?
Posts like this, at the end of the day, may not be as shocking on 4chan as they would be on another site. Given 4chan's minimal moderation and its allowance of user anonymity, the site is somewhat of an ideal breeding ground for trolls. But following the discoveries made shortly after this thread, there was no denying the truth. These photographs showed a real dead body, and the perpetrator, the 4chan user posting the photos, had done so with the intent of being found.
Why? Why did you want to be found though? What was the purpose? I might do one green screen video with the green screen and then take this
really quick, before we get too deep into the video, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to check it out. The subject of today's video, as I sort of mentioned in the beginning text there, is going to be a little bit more disturbing than usual. I know the channel's called Something Sinister, but I do this stuff a lot, and this one bothered me. So just please make sure to check in with yourself.
Hold on. I'm taking this shit off. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of ass, and I would rather it to be like a better shit. So give me 1 second. Pausing the shit.
And yeah, and if you enjoy this video and you are not already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. I also have a Something Sinister Patreon, which I will link down in the description below. It's just $5 a month, and you get some extra perks like early content, ad-free videos, you know, stuff like that. Okay, thanks for listening to me yap a little bit. Let's get back to it. In 2014, an officer from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Department was patrolling a wooded area when he witnessed something odd. From his seat in the cruiser, the officer watched as a disheveled man stumbled out from the tree line. and upon seeing the headlights from the police car, the man began flagging the officer down. The officer, assuming the man might need help, pulled over on the side of the road. Almost immediately, the officer took note that the man was acting strange. He appeared sleep-deprived and manic. It became evident that the man wasn't there to ask the officer for help, but instead, he wanted to show him something.
What?
Located in the woods where the man had emerged from
Oh,
was
hell no.
a camp of sorts.
Hey, man, I ain't gonna lie. I'm not following a nigga from the woods, bro. That shit is dead. Bro, I need backup. I'm not following you into the fucking woods. You
The
crazy?
man had set up a box spring mattress, and resting alongside the bed
What's
was
the
a
girl?
BB gun and a piece of paper with permanent marker on it that read, "I killed Amber Coplin. I strangled her with my hands, then a shoelace. I had no other reason other than I was drunk and she pissed me off. Running from the cops was so fun." The officer would identify the man that he had met in the woods as David Michael Kallick. David would express to the officer that he had a warrant for his own arrest before willingly turning himself in. Following this, the Wilsonville Police Department posted the following photograph to their X account. As the post states, David had apparently been detained without incident and was cooperative with officers. This man, who had been hiding from the police after killing his girlfriend, had finally been caught. But as it turned out, the details of Amber's death weren't entirely a secret. In fact, users on 4chan were the first to find out.
Well,
Just
true, 'cause she
half an hour
posted,
prior to turning himself in, David had posted a number of pictures to the miscellaneous category on 4chan. These pictures showed the lifeless body of a woman. The shoelace used to strangle her was resting next to her. The text posted alongside the pictures from David apparently served as a sort of confession, him proclaiming to the internet that he was in fact responsible for the photographs that everyone was seeing.
Oh, shit.
Many users had naturally called out the photos as being fake. In response, David had told people to check the news for Port Orchard, Washington in a few hours. Her son will be home from school soon. The woman mentioned in the cryptic note found in David's camp, Amber Coplin, would in fact be found dead in her home following the disturbing 4chan posts.
Wow.
Just as David predicted, she was found by her son. By the time police got to Amber's home, they found her lying in the same room where the pictures from 4chan had been taken. She had a pillow over her face, and her ID card was placed on top of it. Written in permanent marker on the card was the word "dead." David had put it there prior to stealing Amber's car and fleeing into the woods. It would later be determined that David had suffered from organic brain syndrome from years of extensive alcohol use. Therefore, it was unlikely that he had the capacity to premeditate Amber's murder. But what made David decide to confess his murder and post pictures of Amber's body to a random message board online? The true answer is, we don't exactly know. The court documents make reference to the 4chan posts, but there is no direct explanation from David himself as to why he chose to do so. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to interpret the posts as somewhat of a genuine remission of guilt for what David had done. But given his history of crime throughout his life, it's not unreasonable to think that maybe he did so with no true intention at all. Regardless, David is now serving 82 years in prison for what he had done to Amber. But
Oh well,
perhaps it was this
technically,
instance
that kind
that
of is life.
inspired an individual nearly a year later to start posting pictures of their victims to 4chan.
What?
And it wasn't just a single victim. This
I have
4chan
killed several
killer
women for
had
for
seemingly
pleasure.
murdered a large number of people.
Wow, and this nigga started
As
the
it
whole
stands right
trend.
now, 4chan still allows users on the website to operate on the site and post anonymously. But
Hold on, y'all. Nah, I'm going incognito for this shit. 4chan. Wow, you can go in here. But I think it's more like, nah, you can probably still, this freaky ass site. You know this shit. But wow.
that's not to say that the site is not capable of tracking user metadata, which it totally does. It's a very similar situation to the Kik app. If you didn't see my video on Kik, I'd recommend checking that one out.
I saw
Kik
that
is
one.
an app that, you know, a lot like 4chan, sort of boasts, you know, its feature of allowing users to post anonymously and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it still logs IP addresses and will, you know, if something illegal is happening, they can provide that information to law enforcement or whoever is requesting it. So long story short, while users can, yes, choose to post anonymously, the site can still track them. And this became particularly important all the way back in 2015
that is
when
good.
one 4chan user in particular started posting what many have considered to be the most disturbing images that they have ever seen. The random board on 4chan is a place where individuals can
Plus, y'all, bro,
post stories
Twitter
and
is
information
like-
that
Twitter's
may
like the
or
new
may
shit.
not be real. As
I mean,
the
even though Twitter,
description
like, you'll
states,
get trust for
only
and all
a
that, but,
fool
like,
would take
niggas
anything
post,
posted here
like
as
unrelated
fact.
files and all this and that, of, like, people
This
getting their head
criteria
chopped
made it
off,
all the more
all type of
concerning
weird
when
shit. Like,
an
it's a whole
anonymous
bunch of
user
gore
posted
on
the
Twitter, bro,
following.
/X.
I have
It's
killed
a
several
whole bunch
women
of
for
gore on
pleasure. If you can guess a name, I will upload a picture. If you can guess any name of any of these women, I will upload their photo. No more than 10 names proposed. Any more than that will be ignored. Some are Polaroids and others were taken with a disposable camera. I also have pictures of them before death when I was able to do so. If you can guess all the names, I will show you where I dumped a body in 1999. The first one is free, as her name is unlikely to be guessed. Located next to this text was an attachment. This photograph, left by the anonymous user,
Man, she's
showed
so pretty.
2 photographs.
She's
The
so
first
pretty.
was a graduation picture of a young woman. It's a little hard to tell from this photo, but it looks like her cap has the date 1997 on it. The picture next to this graduation picture, which I can't show here, is much more disturbing. It shows what appears to be a photograph of this same woman resting on some sort of white sheet. She is lying motionless and looks to be covered in dried blood. The piece of paper below these 2 photographs reads August 21st, 2005. The natural question was, if this was actually a legit photograph of a deceased woman, why would anyone post it to a public forum? But given the events with David and Amber that took place just a year before,
It's like he
it
started a
was
whole
now
bit.
entirely possible that this entire thing was real.
Yeah.
In response to this photograph, a user on the thread decided to play along with the killer's game, posting 5 different guesses as to the name of the woman in these photos. Shannon, Kelly, Madison, Courtney, and Trisha. One of these names was correct, which led to another cryptic post from the killer.
Kelly.
Wow, off to a great start. Incredible. This next photo was much more graphic than the previous one, showing another deceased woman in a particularly revealing position. The following comments in response to this picture continued the trend of guessing the identity of the woman. This cycle would repeat for some time. The strange thing was, however, as more of the photographs of the killer's victims were being shared around, an interesting revelation emerged.
Mm,
The fact of the matter was, these photographs of deceased women appeared to be taken with some sort of disposable camera.
okay.
This would mean that whoever took these photos would have likely had to travel to a store in
Oh,
order to
and
get the
bought the
pictures
camera.
professionally developed. If these were legitimate
Oh,
images of dead people, you would assume that the person in charge of developing the photos would have alerted the police. But somehow, here they were on 4chan for everyone to see.
I mean, maybe he can
Eventually,
develop
the
it
thread
himself, right?
containing the pictures of the victims, as well as the name guessing, would be deleted by 4chan moderators.
Okay.
And for a while, it seemed like the story came to an end.
All right.
But this was far from the case. When doing research on this video, I actually stumbled across quite a few people who believe that what is happening with this, supposed 4chan serial killer is actually mirroring past similar historical events. In particular, I'm talking about stories like Jack the Ripper or like the Zodiac Killer. Not only are these stories of individuals who have yet
Side note, we don't have serial. Well, we probably do, but it's way easier to catch serial killers now. It's so easy, so fucking easy now. Our technology is too high. But the thing is, like, I don't want to seem like I'm praising them, but we don't have like Jack the Ripper. That sorry for everybody who lost their lives to that person, but that was a cool name. As a serial killer, that was a cool name. Jack the Ripper, Zodiac Killer, that nigga was crazy. He was crazy. Um, yeah, I don't know many other serial killers, but besides those two, actually. But other than that, it's like you don't get serial killers no more, or at least you don't know of, because like it's so high in tech now that if you want to do something, purchase anything, go online, search something up, you get found easy as fuck.
killed people, but have also sort of played this weird cat and mouse game with
Yeah,
authorities and,
yeah, yeah.
detectives, individuals trying to bring their reign of terror to an end. For
Yeah, yeah, that too. They would like try to like put like riddles in there and do certain shit to do this and that. Like for example, I don't know if y'all know, but it was this dude. It was this dude. He was in the army. He was in the army, and he he got out the army, or like he got out the army or whatever. But he had a friend with him, but his friend went to the police force. Right, the other guy that got out, he went to some orphanages or like adoption centers or whatever and picked up a kid. And he trained the fucking kid, y'all. What I mean to y'all, he trained the kid to use a sniper. And they was sniping people. And I don't think they was sniping like they was sniping like known people. I think they was sniping like random civilians or whatever. And sometimes, one time, nigga, they tricked the police so bad or the people so bad that they was sniping mobily while in a moving vehicle, y'all. What the fuck? That is so crazy. That is so fucking crazy. Yeah. If I can find a video, I'll put it in the description.
example, like, yeah, the Zodiac Killer in particular was infamous for sending messages to not only like the police, but also like news outlets, saying things like, hey, I killed a person, and if you don't catch me in this amount of time, it's going to happen again.
Yeah,
sort of
there's
creating
like
this
they get on
cycle
like
of
a time
fear
frame.
and I guess egging on, detectives and yeah, people trying
So
to
get me
crack the
yours,
case.
gonna happen
And when you take a look
again.
at the, supposed 4chan serial killer, it's very similar in the sense that, like, they go online and they say, I'm a killer. If you want to find out more about me, you need to guess the names right. Sort of playing, like, I don't know, I guess like
Like they
cat and
fucking the
mouse game
Riddler.
with individuals on the internet. It's a very, I guess, contemporary look at something like, yeah, like the Zodiac Killer or Jack the Ripper. But if that's the case, and we know that sites like 4chan actually track user data, why don't they just crack down and send this data to law enforcement?
Yeah.
In September of 2015, nearly a month after the killer's initial posts to 4chan, a string of disturbing images would emerge once again.
Okay.
The caption from the killer this time reads, "Dying, dying." The images next to the caption, unlike the ones from before, show a man.
2015?
He is laying
Oh,
on a
shit.
white sheet
It's a
and
dude, is
appears to be bruised and bloody. Interestingly enough, it looks like the killer has put a white bar over the man's eyes, concealing the victim's identity. A note placed alongside one of the photographs reads, "I'm back," with the date of September 22nd, 2015.
Wow.
The photograph posted beneath by the killer shows someone in a red ski mask and sunglasses pointing a gun directly at the camera. It's difficult to say why the killer in particular chose to return to the site following the previous thread from August. While the previous thread was seemingly meant to be the start of some sort of game between the users on the site and the killer, this second round of photographs seemed to have no particular rhyme or reason. It was almost as if the killer just wanted to flaunt what they had done. And mysteriously enough, following the photograph of the ski-masked figure, the 4chan killer was never heard from again.
So he was never caught.
As it stands today, both of these threads have been taken down by 4chan moderators. I think that's definitely for the best, as some of the photographs are some of the most disturbing images I've ever seen.
Bro.
But just when it seemed like there was no definitive answer as to what exactly was going on with these posts, some interesting theories came forward.
Okay.
Thanks to individuals who had archived both threads, internet sleuths and investigators came to the aforementioned disturbing conclusion. If these pictures had actually been taken by a disposable camera, someone would have needed to get them developed. As such, anyone in their right mind developing these photos would have brought them to the police.
True.
But this hasn't happened. So the next theory was, what if the killer was an individual who had access to an archive of crime scene photographs? Either someone working in law enforcement currently, or someone who did. But unfortunately, there was no surefire way of verifying this. So if users were unable to directly identify the killer, maybe it was possible to do so by finding out the identities of the individuals in these photos. From the archived posts, I've counted a total of 4 possible victims. The first being the woman in the graduation cap, the second being the woman in the revealing pose, a third woman who appears to be sitting in a bed up against a wood panel wall, and the final being the singular man. These 2 photographs in particular were probably the best to go off of, since they both clearly show the victim's face. When taking a look back at the graduation photo in specific, we have some details to go off of. This was a woman who had graduated in 1997 and had potentially been killed or gone missing in August of 2005. Given that we know one of the 5 names listed here is the first name of the woman, it was only a matter of process by elimination. And just like that, one of the 4chan users researching the case was able to make the following breakthrough.
Well, shit.
So really quick, regarding the identity of the woman in this photograph. I'm not sure why it took me so long to realize this sort of discrepancy in the story, but I thought that I would share it with you because I know that some of you are going to notice it. And I want to bring this up because I did not identify this woman in the photograph. This is all, information that has been passed down over the internet. I'm just collecting it and presenting it in a manner that hopefully is easy to understand. The woman in this photograph, the graduation photograph, is Shauna Maynard. That has been confirmed through a number of sources, and we're about to get into her story. But what's a little bit confusing is this woman's name is Shauna, and we are led to believe for the longest time that one of these 5 names that I mentioned before that were left behind by 4chan users trying to guess the name of this girl. The killer says that one of these names is correct, and it's believed to be Shannon. And I'm not sure if this was a mistake from the killer themselves or what exactly happened, but this is not Shannon Maynard. This is Shauna Maynard. So that's a little bit confusing. Her name is Shauna, not Shannon. Okay, let's move forward. In December of 1997, just a few short months after her graduation, Shauna Maynard decided to leave home while her family was attending a Christmas party. From here, she was able to successfully make it to Las Vegas. Here, she stayed with some friends in a small, cramped apartment. It's difficult to determine exactly whether or not Shauna was working at the time, but there are some theories that believe she was working as an escort. This ultimately led her to meet one disturbed individual. On one night in particular, Shauna reached out to a friend in distress. Over the phone, Shauna told her friend that something bad was going on in the apartment. It sounded like Shauna was arguing with someone before she hung up. Unsure of what to do, the friend would reach out to police, notifying them that Shauna might be in danger. Just an hour later, reports of gunfire were heard around the small Las Vegas apartment complex. And then, nothing. By the time police got to Shauna and her friend's apartment, Shauna was nowhere to be found. She had seemingly disappeared and would remain missing until the following day. As the sun came up and detectives began searching, they received a call from 2 individuals who had found what they described as the body of a young woman at an intersection in Vegas. Upon arrival at the scene, the officers confirmed that this was the girl they were looking for. But what's strange about this case is that despite being found in 1998, we still don't know who is responsible for Shauna's early death. This naturally made the original posts left behind by the 4chan killer all the more haunting. If there was no way of confirming who was behind Shauna's death, there was no reason to believe that the individual from 4chan wasn't the perpetrator they were claiming to be. But this is where things get questionable. When looking into the case of Shauna Maynard's death, you'll find that when police found her, she had been shot a total of 17 times.
Damn!
But when referring back to the first photo posted to 4chan by the killer, the murder photograph on the right-hand side, which is supposed to be Shauna's dead body, does not appear to show any signs of 17 gunshot wounds. Perhaps what's even more peculiar is that while the girl in the murder photograph shares the same colored hair as Shauna, the pose that the woman is in seems to purposefully bring attention to a small chain necklace like the one seen in Shauna's graduation photo.
Right.
Now, I want to state that the following is just my opinion, solely based off of the information that we have.
Did he lie?
I don't know that the Shauna
photo
photo or the photo posted next to her graduation picture is a legit picture of Shauna or is just someone posed to perhaps look like Shauna, and I'll explain what I
Yeah.
mean. I'm inclined to think that the theory that states that whoever this 4chan serial killer is might be a person who has access to legitimate, crime scene photographs. I'm inclined to think that that might be correct. And if that's the case, it could have been a situation as simple as they were sifting through, an archive of photos and they found someone who looked particularly like Shauna did in her graduation picture. But I want to draw a little bit of attention to a particular detail that I find strange. If you look in the Shauna graduation photo, she has that very distinct chain necklace. And it's a little bit difficult to talk about or really articulate what my theory is because I can't show you the Shauna murder photo. But basically, it's a person laying on a white sheet, and they don't look too well, and they are wearing a very similar chain necklace. The way that they are posed, it's almost as if like their arm is like up by their neck, not quite directly pointing at, but drawing attention, like I said, to a very similar looking necklace to the one that Shauna has in her graduation photo. And I think that this might have been a deliberate decision because naturally, when you look at the graduation photo and you look at that photo, you draw that comparison. She has a necklace, she has a similar necklace. They must be the same person. But
Yeah.
as it turns out, Shauna isn't the only victim in these photographs left behind by the 4chan serial killer to have been identified.
Oh shit.
According to articles recovered from 1997, an escort was watching America's Most Wanted when she happened upon a particular episode that featured a girl she used to know. This episode was on an unsolved case in which Nevada police found a number of women's bodies dumped out in the Las Vegas desert. While most of the bodies were labeled as Jane Doe's, the remains of one woman in particular was identified as 23-year-old Margaret Hicks.
Okay.
Her cause of death was determined to be a result of strangulation. Margaret is believed to be the woman sitting on the bed in this photograph. Prior to her death, she had been working in a brothel. As such, it's believed that the person responsible for her death had likely hired her for her services before killing her.
Damn,
But
that's fucked up.
just like Shauna, this perpetrator has never been identified. When looking at the original attachment posted to 4chan by the supposed killer, Margaret's photograph is accompanied by a Polaroid showing what appears to be a face that has been badly burned. 4chan users have understandably thought that because these two pictures were next to one another, that Margaret was the burned victim in the Polaroid. But when referencing old articles covering what happened to Margaret, the cause of death does not align with this picture.
Okay.
Because this is the second instance of one of the photographs not matching the actual cause of death of the victim, I'm inclined to think that this whole 4chan serial killer
That's crazy,
situation is not real. Now, that's not to say that these photos don't show
So, like, is he,
legitimate
like, fake
pictures
ca-
of
so,
dead
like-
people because, like I said, I think there's a very high possibility that the theory that states that whoever is doing this has access to, legitimate crime scene photos, perhaps archived. I think that's a very good possibility. And I think it's a real possibility that whoever had access to these just sifted through and found, I guess, lookalikes to the, original photos and therefore placed them together and made it seem like they were the same person. For example, that picture of like that close up of like a burn face that was paired alongside the
that might
Margaret
not
Hicks
be-
photo is apparently an old photo that went around on rotten.com, which, if you don't know, is like an early internet shock site. I've never been to rotten.com,
Wow.
but I've actually seen this image used quite a bit here on YouTube, not only just like in scary videos, but also some big YouTubers have used it as like their thumbnail. So I don't know if it's real or not, but just for
Okay.
safety's sake, I'm going to
That's not-
blur it in this video. But
That's
yes,
not
I do
her.
think at the end of the day, given the information that I've come across, I think that the 4chan serial killer is just a case of an individual who wanted to, I guess, I don't know,
Get some
cause
attention.
chaos and take advantage of the fact that 4chan
Get some
was going
attention
to
or some
allow them
shit.
to do so completely
Stop lying, nigga.
anonymous.
You ain't got
And
no
regardless
bodies,
of whether
nigga.
or not it's legit, I feel like the fact that an
Talking about some
individual
bodies, you don't got
decided
nothing.
to do this in such a
That's kinda,
distasteful manner with
yeah, that's kinda
legitimate
fucked up.
pictures of you know,
Like
missing people, killers who never
yeah,
been identified. I
young
think that in and
girls
of
and shit.
itself is quite a horrifying and disturbing concept. But if you made
Yeah,
it to the end of this
these
video,
people
I
need to
just
get
want
that
to
nigga.
thank you
He
so
might
much from the bottom of
plan
my
on like
heart. I know
actually
it was
hurting
a really,
somebody.
you know, difficult one to get through. But if you're into true crime and like internet horror and stuff like that, please consider
That was
subscribing
weird.
to Something Sinister
That was weird.
if you haven't already. And as always, guys, stay safe, and I will see you in the next video.
Hey, W something sinister, bro. W fucking vid. W fucking vid. We got 4 more to go. Whew. This one is horror accidentally broadcast on game shows. Pharaoh McGurry. This is another one of our boys.
Germany's Wetten, Das is the single largest television show in Europe, with 10 million eager viewers tuning into each broadcast. When translated to English, the title reads, "Wanna Bet?", which may give you a clue as to what the program is about. While Wetten, Das operates much like any other variety show featuring interviews with celebrity guests and musical performances, it does have a twist. The entire program revolves around a unique game show concept. Ordinary members of the public would come onto the show to propose a bet, one that would require them to pull off some outlandish feat live on the air. The bets would range from people trying to show off their great knowledge of a certain topic to large-scale stunts involving big machinery. The celebrity guests would place a wager on whether or not the feat would be successful. If they guess wrong, they have to do some.
I don't like, they used to do some crazy shit back in the day, bro. Some crazy old shit. Like they like the dares that they used to like have niggas try to do, bro. It's like out of this world.
Something embarrassing on live TV. At the end of the night, the audience votes on which stunt they thought was the most entertaining, with the winner being crowned the bet king and taking home the grand cash prize. While it was undoubtedly successful, competing programs with similarly exciting formats were becoming a threat to Wetten, Das's ratings. To stay ahead, the producers tried to keep increasing the spectacle and danger level of the bets,
That's crazy
leading
shit.
to the show garnering a reputation for being reckless. Critics would speculate on how long it would be until something bad would happen live on air. The December 4th installment of Wetten, Das featured a particularly harrowing bet. 23-year-old aspiring stuntman Samuel Koch asserted that he could perform a somersault over a moving vehicle by using a set of spring-loaded boots.
Oh, I think I know about this one. I think he got his shit smacked and he just like.
But that's not all he had to pull off. On the show, he would attempt to flip over 5 different cars, one after the other, each one increasing in size to level up the difficulty with each jump.
Goofy
The
shit.
host,
This is
Thomas
what I'm talking about.
Gottschalk, would tell the audience that Samuel had
Yes, you a stunt man, but nigga, not this type of stunt. Like, relax,
a
bro.
mere 4 minutes to achieve this.
4 minutes?
Koch was determined. In the months leading up to the show, he had completed over 500 similar jumps in order to prepare for it. He personally selected the vehicles he would flip over, the first being a smart car. He takes a moment to calm his nerves and then gives a thumbs up, signaling the tiny car to slowly drive forward. The jump goes perfectly and the crowd goes wild. Soon enough, the second vehicle pulls up, a Mini Clubman. With the timer ticking, he takes another moment to get his bearings and once again waves for the car to come. This time, he falters. His stride doesn't feel right and he abandons the jump at the last second. Instead of failing the bet then and there, the show decides to proceed with a third car, a Ford Focus. Koch appears visibly stressed now, but manages to pull off the jump.
He too fucking nervous, bro. Okay, good shit.
Now there's the fourth car, an Audi A8. The host Gottschalk informs us that the driver is none other than Samuel's own father. The vehicle begins to slowly accelerate forward as the audience eagerly awaits yet another somersault. But something goes wrong here. The camera seemed to miss.
Sofort den Arzt, bitte. Sofort ein Arzt.
Martina!
To miss whatever happened, but they do catch the audience's reactions.
Sofort den Arzt.
On the floor unmoving. Medics rush in and the program instantly seems to fall apart. Nobody has any idea what to do. Gottschalk and his co-host just pace around awkwardly.
Ist er sofort wieder aufgesprungen?
Sagt uns, ob alles okay ist, bitte.
So.
The cameras pan over the audience and we can hear muffled conversations accidentally picked up by the microphones until the broadcast is eventually cut off entirely. The cameras may not have caught it, but the audience sure did. When Samuel had made his fourth jump, he rotated slightly too early, leading to his head hitting the windshield of the oncoming car. Medics rushed him to the Dusseldorf University Hospital. Doctors would discover that he had fractured 4 cervical vertebrae and even lacerated a carotid artery. The arterial tear would bleed internally, flowing into the spinal canal where it began compressing his spinal cord. He'd end up being flown to the Swiss Paraplegic Center, where he'd be analyzed by Chief Physician Dr. Michael Baumberger, who'd give a chilling statement to the press.
He will never walk normally again. He will not have a normal life like that of a person without an injury.
But Samuel didn't just lose the ability to walk. The internal bleeding had completely destroyed his spinal cord, resulting in him becoming tetraplegic, meaning he had no sensation nor movement in all 4 limbs and his torso.
What?
He ended up spending 3 months on his back with his head being held still by a metal vise as he painstakingly learned how to breathe again on his own. He'd spend an entire year in the hospital.
Holy
Hulk
fuck!
was enduring an extremely painful and
And that's not even the fucked up part. You know what the most crushing part is? His father was in the car. And guess what? His father gonna feel like, I fucking did this to my son.
psychologically debilitating recovery. The German public was busy reacting to the accident. Thomas Gottschalk would resign as host of Wetten das, and the program promised to overhaul their safety standards, but ultimately suffered a severe decline in ratings in the years following the incident. The ordeal didn't stop there though.
Period.
Samuel's accident would result in a long-lasting legal battle over whether or not his injury was considered a workplace accident. If it was, he'd be entitled to far greater financial compensation and even a state-funded pension. He and his family would argue that performing for a public broadcaster constituted a form of public service and therefore should be considered work. After a lengthy process involving many hurdles and setbacks, the courts would ultimately rule in 2025, a full 15 years after the incident, that Samuel's injury wasn't in fact a workplace accident, but there may be grounds for coverage as an uninsured entrepreneur injured by a third party. That third party they're referring to, by the way, is Samuel's own father. Not one to be held back by being completely paralyzed below the shoulders, Koch would go on to have a career as a somewhat prominent actor, appearing in many German-language TV shows, movies, and plays. Wetten das would end up going off the air in 2014, but it would end up getting a reboot in 2021, and it's still running to this day, minus the dangerous stunts and potential workplace accidents. Speaking of workplace accidents, picture this. You've just gotten home from a hard day at the office. There's only one thing you're looking forward to. Sitting down to watch television while eating a fat kettle for more than a thing for the people with a track record that speaks for itself. When you've received ovation, they've got more than slash during the severity of his injuries. The rest of the people we're about to talk about, not so much. Today's video is a surprisingly international one. Each case takes place in a different country. The one thread between them is that they all involve game shows, a format of television that's been around since the very inception of the medium. Game shows, unlike other forms of TV, present unique opportunities for things to go wrong in spectacular ways. Not only is the genre based around unpredictable outcomes, it also involves bringing on members of the public, whom aren't always vetted as well as they should be. And of course, as we've just seen, big stunts that often involve said members of the public are a key part of many game shows. Put all this together and you have a form of TV that's been rife with controversy since the very beginning. Some scandals amount to nothing more than accusations of cheating, but others are much darker. Before we jump into the next topic, I want to take a second and tell you about this little music project I just put out. Feral One. It's the first high-effort collection of music I've made since starting YouTube, and it also contains my outro music, which I'm always getting asked about. I played every instrument. I'll link it down below. In 2005, one of the Philippines' most popular shows premiered for the first time, Wow Wow Wee. It was instantly a huge hit. Much like Wetten das, the program presented itself as a variety show, with everything revolving around different game show style segments. The difference with Wowowee, however, was its exploitative nature. The program would set up shop in the poorest regions of the Philippines, making sure to always tell the audience how they were doing a great service to the impoverished contestants they would bring on. It brings to mind all those online content creators that film themselves giving money to the homeless, but Wowowee took this idea a step further by not only exploiting the destitution of their contestants, but also by making them compete for the
Wait, what the fuck was that?
money to the homeless.
Homeless man money prank.
But Wowowee took this idea a step further by not only exploiting the destitution of their contestants, but also by making them compete for the payout. The show would later go through a scandal when viewers learned that some of the games on the program were rigged, meaning that producers were exploiting poor people and then trying to weasel out of giving them any sort of compensation. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. By 2006, Wowowee was already massively popular in the Philippines, especially among the more destitute
You got some
segments of the
disgusting
population.
humans out here, man. I tell
It
you.
represented an opportunity to escape poverty, one that proved to be irresistible. Viewers would be excited to learn that the show is planning something special for its 1-year anniversary episode. The usual top prize of 1 million pesos, more than 5 times the average yearly salary in the country, was unchanged, but the program added more prizes into the mix, including 2 houses, 2 passenger jeepneys, which are kind of like independently run bus services, multiple taxis, and an extra cash prize donated by overseas Filipino workers who were fans of the show, which increased the total amount of the cash prize to 2 million pesos, roughly $30,000 US.
You hear that? Why wouldn't you?
By the way, I think it's pretty telling that a large part of these prizes involve equipment specifically intended for starting the sorts of small businesses that often lift people out of poverty. This program really didn't hide what they were trying to do. With the main sorts of contestants appearing on the show being audience members who were
DJ
picked on the
Cock?
spot.
What the fuck?
With the main sorts of contestants appearing on the show.
Oh. His name is Cocky. Oh, that's it, right? Ain't that DJ Cocky? Oh, that's nasty.
Being audience members who were picked on the spot, the producers anticipated the studio audience to swell dramatically for this special event.
Nigga named DJ
To
Cocky.
accommodate the influx of
Fuck wrong with
people,
you?
they opted to film the anniversary episode in the Phil Sports Football Stadium in Pasig City, which had an estimated capacity of 19,000, 4 times more than the show's usual 5,000 audience members. Weeks before the event, the program's network, ABS-CBN, would run an extensive advertising campaign, persuading viewers to show up to the stadium for the chance to win big on February 4th. 5 days before the show was set to air, viewers were already turning up outside the stadium. It wasn't unusual behavior. The producers often saw a few fans show up days before a show in hopes of being far enough in the line to secure a spot in the audience. But people just kept joining the line. Some of them had come from hundreds of kilometers away. One fan would tell the news,
We're very poor. I waited for days outside to try our luck. This is a rare chance for us to win 1 million pesos.
2 days
When you
before the
very
event,
poor, nigga,
the
you get
queue had
doing
now
shit that
grown to
you like.
tens of thousands of people, and it stretched around the entire
You're
stadium.
getting hungry.
For whatever reason, the network opted to not get any help from the police, instead relying on a small security staff to manage the enormous crowd of people. Despite things already getting out of hand, the network continued on TV to try and persuade even more people to show up. It's the night before the broadcast. The crowd has now grown to a whopping 30,000 people, 50% over the stadium's capacity. The front of the line was situated by the LRP gate on Captain Henry Javier Street, which connected to the stadium using a narrow downward sloped driveway, only intended for vehicles. The only thing holding people back was a small steel barrier, and the crowd was pressed in shoulder to shoulder in this slim passageway. A security guard comes out and announces to the crowd that at 6 a.m., some people would be let in, but not everyone would be admitted. This instills a sense of urgency in the attendees who had already been waiting for several days with inadequate access to food, water, and basic hygiene facilities. People began to worry that they may not make it into the stadium, and their efforts and time would be for nothing. Just as the gates were scheduled to open, a producer comes out and makes a fatal mistake. He tells the crowd that only the first 300 people in line would receive tickets that would qualify them to possibly compete in the show. This drove the crowd into a frenzy, everyone started pushing forward, trying to get further ahead in the line. The security guards attempt to reinforce the steel barrier, but it was no use. The people at the front get pushed into it so hard that it collapses, and the entire mass of people surges forward, right into the downward sloping driveway. People start falling like dominoes, but the crowd still just keeps it collapsing, trying to go. This drove the crowd into a frenzy. Everyone started pushing forward, trying to get further ahead in the line. The security guards attempt to reinforce the steel barrier, but it was no use. The people at the front get pushed into it so hard that it collapses, and the entire mass of people surges forward, right into the downward sloping driveway. People start falling like dominoes, but the crowd still just keeps moving forward. Soon medics would arrive on the scene, but it would take them 2 hours to make it through the mass of people to reach the dead and injured. More ambulances would arrive on scene, but they would have difficulty even reaching the stadium with most of the crowd still standing outside. The police would get involved to try to disperse the horde of people, but surprisingly, most fans refused to give up their spot in line. They persisted in wanting to enter the arena, and many attendees even insisted that the show go on despite being informed of the tragedy that had just unfolded in front of them.
Wow.
A true measure of the level of desperation felt by the average fan of this program.
That's desperate.
It would take Willie, the host of the show, being joined by the vice president of the network, taking the stage and announcing that the program was cancelled to actually get the crowd to disperse. In place of the game show, ABS-CBN would instead air live coverage of the disaster response. After all was said and done, 73 people would lose their lives in this tragedy, with a further 608 sustaining injuries. 69 of the deceased were women, mostly middle-aged or elderly. The majority of them were jobless and hailed from the poorest parts of Manila and nearby provinces. Homicide charges would eventually be brought against 17 individuals, including the show's host Willie, who would later be cleared of all wrongdoing. The 16 others wouldn't face any criminal convictions either. Wawawee would continue to air after this tragedy and would only encounter more controversies as the years went on, with it mostly being remembered for its exploitative and shady practices when it was finally cancelled in 2010. The Ultra Stampede, as it would later be called, is remembered now as being the deadliest disaster to ever occur as a result of a game show. Alright, we're once again hopping continents, this time to South America, where we'll learn about yet another tragedy that played out because of a game show. In 2007 in Colombia, a TV producer would come up with a very interesting idea for a game show. It was called Nada Más que la Verdad, or in English, Nothing But the Truth.
Nothing but the truth.
The idea was simple. A contestant would be brought in before the show was to be recorded, and they'd be subjected to an invasive polygraph test involving up to 150 very personal questions. The answers and polygraph results would be recorded, and the producers would comb through them to choose 21 questions to use for the show. Once on the air, the contestant would merely have to answer the selected questions truthfully. They'd always start light and become more personal and private as they went on. Their family members would have to sit on stage with them, and the questions were often designed to stir up some interpersonal drama. But if a contestant was willing to spill their sauciest beans on TV, they could walk away with the grand prize. That's all there was to this show, which became an instant hit in Colombia and would soon make its way to 47 different countries as an adaptable format. It eventually hit the country of Peru in 2012, resulting in a game show called El Valor de la Verdad, the Value of Truth. It was a straight adaptation and didn't stray at all from the format set by its Colombian predecessor. It was scheduled to debut during the onset of a golden age in Peruvian television, with production budgets increasing dramatically and many international formats making their way to the country for the first time. Needless to say, there was a lot of hype behind EVDLV, evidenced by the primetime Saturday night slot the broadcaster planned to debut it in. For the very first episode, the producers chose a woman named Ruth Talia to be the first ever contestant, a call center employee who lived in the capital of Lima. She would appear on the show alongside her parents and her boyfriend Brian. Over the hour-long show, all of Ruth's secrets would be revealed on TV. It started slow, with Ruth admitting that she had a nose job. Then she reveals that she was ashamed of her Andean roots. Things heat up further, with her telling everyone that she was only with her boyfriend until something better came along, and that she never actually worked at a call center. She was actually a dancer at a nightclub. After revealing that she had twice accepted money in exchange for sex, she would decide to stop answering questions. She may not have won the grand prize of 19,000 sol, but she did manage to walk away with $15,000, the equivalent of almost $6,000 American. It was a stunning set of revelations, one that would instantly skyrocket the ratings of EVDLV. While Ruth would be photographed happily accepting a check for the amount of her winnings, behind the scenes, things were a little different. Family members and distant relatives alike would call Ruth to express their shame for the things she had said, and Ruth would later confide in her mom that her thoughts had been leading her down some pretty dark paths. She'd essentially stopped leaving the house. Things were also bad for her boyfriend Brian, who was essentially labeled as a cuckold on national TV. Strangers would even start making fun of him in public. On September 12th, just 2 months after the show ended, Ruth would inexplicably fail to return home one day. Her parents would report her as missing the next day, but the police weren't of much help. They saw this as yet another case of a working-class individual going missing in the massive, sprawling city of Lima. Her family would start a media campaign to try and track her down. They were worried that her declining mental state had led her to take drastic and fatal action. With the success of the show, a media frenzy would ensue. A news team would be permanently stationed outside the family home, and while the media may have been tasteless in their reporting, the resources and exposure they provide the family were of great help. Ruth's parents would be driven by the network to various hospitals and morgues to search for their daughter, and they'd even bring her to Peru's presidential palace to make their case to the highest office in the country. That latter trip would compel the police to start taking this case seriously. After working with the family for a few days, a person of interest would finally be labeled. Brian Romero, Ruth's boyfriend. He'd even be interviewed live on TV while he was a suspect, reporting to the audience that he doesn't remember if he saw Ruth on the night she disappeared because
he probably fucking slapped and took her ass. I'm sorry.
he was drunk.
Rest in peace, though.
A few hours after that broadcast, Brian would come clean to the police. On September 11th, he had been waiting in a car with his uncle for Ruth to get off the bus near her house. Once she was alone, they snatched her and brought her into the car. They then bring her out to a plot of land on the rural outskirts of Lima, which is where she would take her final breath. The police would then take Brian up to this plot of land, which was owned by his uncle. The media would follow, and that night, every national station in the country would broadcast the recovery of her body live on air. Every station, that is, except one. One network opted instead to run their usual Saturday night primetime program, El Valor de la Verdad. The courts would later find that Brian and his uncle had murdered Ruth specifically to steal the winnings she earned on the game show. Both would be sentenced to life in prison. Oddly enough, the sentence will be reduced in 2021 to 33 years for Brian and 30 years for his uncle. EVDLV would be tainted from its first episode, and they'd soon pivot to a more lighthearted format featuring celebrities answering embarrassing questions rather than revealing life-ruining secrets for everyday people.
That's good.
They dedicate all subsequent episodes to Ruth's memory. This case would evoke a conversation about media ethics. Some people assert that the show is in some part responsible for Ruth's death by facilitating a very particularly cruel form of public humiliation for both her and her partner. While I do think that the whole idea behind the program was no doubt mean-spirited, I'm not sure if I agree that the show held any actual responsibility for Brian's actions. I would like to hear what you guys think, though. We've got one more case for today.
I don't think it held any significance to Brian's actions. It was her who said all those things. It was her who felt that way. It was her who did this and that. So that invoked rage into her partner, which he snapped, tried to take her. Why the fuck is Kim Jong-un right there? He snapped, take her, tried to take the money, and kill her.
This one takes us to a pretty familiar place for the majority of my audience, the United States of America, and it revolves around a show that likely requires no introduction.
Holy
Family
shit.
Feud.
What?
Yeah, you know what this is. Two families try to guess the studio audience's top answers to survey
Family
questions,
Feud?
while Steve Harvey gives a confused look to the camera anytime anybody says anything even remotely uncouth. The format's unique and fun, and it's no wonder why it's performed so well over the 50 years it's been on the air. I've definitely seen my fair share of Family Feud in my life, and you probably have as well. The show's been facing some criticism recently for how repetitive it's become, and while I haven't personally seen it in years, I know exactly what people are talking about. Every episode just kind of plays out in the exact same way. It all boils down to Steve Harvey reacting with astonishment to the vulgar answers of contestants. I'd say it firmly sits in the category of zombie TV, alongside shows like The Simpsons or Family Guy. Programs that always get good ratings no matter what, so the producers don't have any real incentive to innovate or change the incredibly stale butt-winning format.
Yeah.
In 2020 though, something interesting would occur on Family Feud. Something that had never happened before. In January of that year, the Bleefnick family would appear on the show. Part of the format includes Steve Harvey introducing each member of a given family and asking them a certain question as an opportunity for the contestants to express their personality. When carrying this out with the Bleefnicks, he would eventually settle on the son, Tim, which would result in this odd exchange.
What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?
Honey, I love you, but said I do. Not my mistake. I love my wife. I'm gonna get in trouble for that, aren't I?
A man stating that he regrets his marital vows isn't really anything out of the ordinary for Family Feud, but there is a distinct lack of a punchline here. It's hard to believe that Tim is making any sort of joke. Another thing to note is that his wife was not present here. He was solo. Just weeks after the show aired, Tim would file for divorce from his wife Becky. A long court proceeding would then ensue, including a tense custody battle for their children. The couple would file for orders of protection from one another, which would both be rejected by the courts, although they would order that the couple stay away from each other's residences except for child exchanges. They'd also order Tim to return his 9mm handgun to his wife, since she had been the one to purchase it. Something he refused to do.
I think he refused to do it because maybe in his mind, he gonna try to kill his ass.
Over the following months, Becky's friends and family would take note of her escalating fears and paranoia. She was certain Tim was planning to do something horrible to her, sending her sister the following texts.
If something ever happens to me, please make sure the #1 person of interest is Tim, as that is who would do something to me. I am scared he will harm me, come after me, or will do something that takes away from my kids, or takes my kids away from me.
In February 2023, Becky underwent surgery and asked Tim to look after their 3 children for a few extra days while she recovered. Tim agreed, and Becky spent a few days alone in her house. She would begin to notice a mysterious figure that was sporadically popping up on her surveillance cameras, one that was riding a bike slowly past her house. On the night of February 23rd, the biker would once again appear, but this time, they wouldn't ride past the house. They instead got off their bike, scaled Becky's fence, climbed up to the 2nd floor of her house, and pried open a window with a crowbar. They then chased Becky into the bathroom, where they would shoot her 14 times, at close range.
Damn.
I probably don't need to tell you who was holding the gun. Tim made a ton of mistakes and was easily caught by the police. After a swift trial, he would be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?
Honey, I love you, but said I do.
Eventually, the connection would be made that the same Tim Bleefnick that had appeared on Family Feud had later murdered his wife in cold blood, even alluding to his disdain right to the host, resulting in one of the most reasonable Steve Harvey reaction faces we've ever gotten. With the decline in traditional media, I do wonder what the future holds in store for game shows. I think the mantle has somewhat been taken up by creators like Jubilee or I guess even Mr. Beast, but I think there's a certain pizzazz missing from the online iterations of game shows. I have seen a couple videos that compare Beast games to Survivor, so maybe it's as simple as an issue of quality, but I would be curious to hear what you guys think. Are game shows destined to die out with the rest of traditional media? Are we ever going to get proper online game shows that are well made?
The Beast games,
let me know what you think in the comments.
Ooh,
and as always, thanks for
toes.
watching.
Well, these games, they tough. Thank you. For oh shit! Thank you, bro. Well, that concludes the video for today. If you like this sort of content, once again, please leave a like and make sure you subscribe to me. You guys help me every day by achieving my goal. If you like and subscribe and comment, that way it can get pushed out to more people and we can get new members. Thank you so much for supporting me. I really appreciate it. This is something that I want to do for a long time. Thank you and have a good and blessed day. Peace.